There's an invisible cage keeping you stressed and exhausted, but it's not your fault. You click on productivity videos hoping to transform your life, but the advice you find is often the very thing keeping you stuck. But all you want is more results, more time, and more energy. But you feel stuck watching others advance while you stay where you are. This is the productivity trap, and it's hurting you without you even realizing it. Productivity isn't about doing more work. It's about breaking free from the advice that doesn't serve you. So in this video, I'm going to expose 5 productivity myths by sharing exactly why they're wrong and providing you with a smarter alternative. If you don't break free from these traps, you'll be back in that cycle of frustration, burnout, and feeling like you're always one step behind. And it all starts with the biggest lie you've believed for years. Working more means achieving more. But that's myth number 1, the Clockwork Fallacy. Let me tell you a story about someone who bought into this myth and how it led to their failure. Meet Marissa Mayer, one of Google's first ever employees. When Marissa was hired, she became famous for her work ethic, often living inside of the office. She'd cram 130-hour work weeks by napping under her desk and never seeing the sun. To her, success was a simple equation: work more, get more. And this worked for her. In 2012, she left Google to become the CEO of Yahoo. She brought that mindset with her and demanded her employees put in the same amount of work she was. Her obsession with overworking led to burnout, low morale, and zero innovation at all. The very thing she thought would bring Yahoo back to its glory days pushed it even further down its decline. By the end of her time, stocks were at extreme lows and Yahoo sold to Verizon for a fraction of its previous price. But here's where things get interesting. The majority of the world buys into this strategy. The conventional advice everyone believes: work more, achieve more. So why do we fall for this? Well, society pushes us all to work harder and longer, even if science argues against that. In fact, studies show that overworking can reshape your prefrontal cortex, making you less productive. The thing about grind culture is that it's all an illusion. Real success is found when you align your efforts to the tasks that move the needle. So how can you avoid the Clockwork Fallacy and boost your productivity? I will answer that in a second. But first, make sure to leave a like and subscribe so other people can find content that helps make them more productive. Now let's move into step number 1 to avoid the Clockwork Fallacy. Stop counting hours. Most people obsess over how much they do. I studied for 40 hours, so I deserve an A. They assume that their results are directly tied to the time they spent, but that's just a complete lie. Even if they somehow stayed focused and studied for that entire duration, their efforts might have been put towards low impact tasks. So the real secret is to stop tracking hours and start tracking things that actually make a difference. Later in this video, I'll show you a common myth about prioritization and a smarter way to approach it. But let's move on to step number 2, find balance. Instead of falling for the Clockwork Fallacy and stripping your life of any enjoyment, you need to create a system that allows you to work effectively without burning out. An efficient system gets things done very quickly, but an effective system works for you, ensuring steady progress on high-value tasks. A truly effective system doesn't just overload you with work. It protects your time for rest, recovery, and enjoyment. Here's something most people are scared of doing. Learn to say no. No to unnecessary tasks, no to distractions, no to people who waste your time. Productivity isn't just about what you do, it's about what you refuse to do. Take time for yourself, protect your focus, and ensure your energy goes towards things that actually matter. But even after escaping the Clockwork Fallacy, there's still another myth that's keeping you stuck. One that paralyzes you before you can even begin. Myth number 2 is the Masterplan Mirage. We all know Starbucks, the world's largest coffee chain, but it wasn't always smooth sailing. Meet Howard Schultz, the man who turned Starbucks into a global empire. Now, Starbucks was founded in 1971, but back then they only sold high-quality coffee beans. It wasn't until Howard took a trip to Italy. It was there that he became inspired to turn Starbucks into an Italian-style coffee house. So, in the 1980s, Howard began meticulously planning. Then, finally in 1984, he launched the first cafe, but disaster struck. The store's design didn't resonate with customers, the flavors didn't connect, and everything just felt out of place. People just couldn't understand why there was an Italian-style coffee shop in the middle of Seattle. But instead of giving up, Howard adjusted. He listened to customer feedback, made adjustments, and just kept improving. True perfection didn't come from a rigid plan. It came when Howard threw out that master plan and embraced the need to evolve. Like Howard, most people fall into the trap of believing that planning every single detail is the key to success. But that's the conventional advice that's keeping you stuck. No amount of planning will lead to a perfect situation unless you're constantly improving. The real magic happens when you allow real-world experience to cause your adaptation. But you shouldn't try to achieve things blind either. So here's 2 types of smarter plans that allow you to adapt while still having structure. Plan type number 1, agile experimentation. If you value adaptability over rigid structure, this plan is for you. Forget perfection. This approach is about testing, learning, and improving quickly. Step 1, set your hypothesis. What's your goal? Define a clear, measurable outcome. Step 2, test small. Use micro experiments to test a bunch of different outcomes. Step 3, measure and reflect. Track what actually moves the needle. Step 4, iterate. If it works, double down on it. If it flops, let it go. Step 5, repeat. No rigid plans, just keep continuously evolving. Agile experimentation is great because you refine your process through action, not endless planning. Now let's look at plan type number 2, the goal-based roadmap. This is for those who want a structured plan without getting stuck in the weeds. Step 1, set your long-term vision. Start big. What's the ultimate goal? Step 2, quarterly milestones. Break the big goal into clear checkpoints. Step 3, monthly focus area. Each month, zoom in on one key area you want to develop. Step 4, weekly adjustments. Track your progress, tweak your strategy, and course correct as needed. Step 5, feedback loops. Gather insights, adapt, and stay aligned with your long-term vision. The goal-based roadmap blends structure and flexibility, ensuring you make steady progress towards your ultimate goal. But even with an adaptable plan in place, there's still one more myth trying to keep you trapped. It looks like progress, but it's stopping you from making any. This is myth number 3, the clean desk delusion. If you somehow haven't heard about Airbnb, meet Brian Chesky, the co-owner. And even he fell for this next myth. In the early days, before Airbnb exploded into a billion-dollar company, they were failing. Investors weren't biting, customers didn't care, the business was just going nowhere. And what was Chesky doing? Organizing. His workspace, immaculate. His inbox, always at 0. And yet, none of it was moving his business forward. While his competitors were testing, launching, and improving, he was stuck at his desk tidying up. Then, he snapped out of it. No more looking productive. It was time to be productive. He and his co-founder hit the streets, recruiting hosts door to door. They took professional photos of the apartment. They refined their pitch. All they did was make bold, uncomfortable moves. And that is what turned Airbnb into a global empire. It wasn't the tidy desk and it wasn't the perfect inbox. All they had to do was focus on real progress, not fake productivity. So how can you break from the tidy desk delusion in your daily life? First, stop wasting time just organizing everything. Focus on what actually matters. If, and only if, emails are essential for your success, obviously deal with them first. But don't fall into the trap of obsessing over every tiny detail. That's just busy work that's gonna lead to burnout with zero progress. Second, start focusing on high leverage activities. Instead of spending hours on small tasks that make you feel productive, prioritize actions that directly impact your goals. Last, give yourself permission to embrace the chaos. Don't wait for everything to be perfect before taking any action. Remember, just like Brian Chesky, the best way to move forward is to start messy and adjust as you go. But be careful not to overestimate what you can do at one time. Many people buy into the idea that juggling multiple tasks will allow them to complete everything faster. But I'm gonna let you in on a little truth. The opposite actually happens. This leads us to myth number 4, the multitasking mask. Constantly swapping between tasks only degrades the quality and efficiency of your work. Elon Musk is a perfect example of someone who fell for this myth and paid the price for it. In the early days of Tesla and SpaceX, Elon put a big focus on being there for both companies. He was trying to build them up both simultaneously, and he believed multitasking was the key to running multiple companies at once. One moment he was overseeing the Tesla production crisis, the next he was launching rockets out of SpaceX. But instead of peak efficiency, it led to poor decisions and burnout. This multitasking almost derailed both of these companies entirely. But eventually, Musk realized the true cost of task switching. So he switched to deep work by blocking out periods of time for high impact tasks. He delegated aggressively, tightened deadlines, and cut distractions. So what was the result? Well, Tesla stabilized and experienced an explosive growth period. And SpaceX became the biggest private spaceflight company in the world. So let's apply this to your daily life. Whenever you become spread too thin, take these steps. Step number 1, reset your attention. Take a moment to clear your mind before switching contexts. A brief 2-minute break can prevent mental fatigue. Step 2, block dedicated time. Schedule uninterrupted periods for your highest value tasks. Turn off notifications, get out of apps, and eliminate distractions. Step number 3, single task with intention. Work on one meaningful task to completion before jumping to the next one. But I'm sad to say there's still one more myth that's gonna keep you in this cycle of stress and exhaustion. It's myth number 5, the firefighting fallacy. The belief that putting out urgent problems means you're making real progress. And no one fell for this harder than Uber's former CEO, Travis Kalanick. At first, Travis was aggressively problem solving, tackling any problem Uber was facing. And this led to incredible results. Uber scaled up faster than any startup from their time. He was constantly in crisis mode. Lawsuits, regulatory battles, PR stunts, the whole 9 yards. Instead of fixing Uber's deeper problems, Kalanick thought leadership was tackling emergencies. But in 20 2017, everything amounted to Kalanick being removed from his CEO position. And when you're constantly in reaction mode, you're never creating something new or sustainable. But you need to avoid this ticking time bomb in your own productivity. If your days are spent putting out fires on urgent but low impact tasks, you're stuck in the firefighting fallacy too. So you need to switch your mindset from reactive to proactive. Here's 3 steps to do that easily. Step 1, identify recurring fires. Track what emergencies keep appearing because these are the root of your system's problems. Step 2, create prevention protocols. Develop standard solutions for routine problems so they don't require your full attention every time. Step 3, schedule system maintenance. Dedicate time each week specifically for improving processes, not just executing within them. Now that you're aware of the 5 most common productivity myths, there's no excuse for you to still be stuck in this cycle. You now have every single tool you need to escape this trap. And if you're now ready to build a new productivity system for your specific situation, go check out my previous video, How to Organize Your Entire Life. It's a full roadmap for productivity and success.